Roberta Kinzer honors her grandson, Jordan Kinzer, a U.S. Army veteran. Her brother-in-law, Ben Carson, who served as an Army airborne trooper and later in the Navy. Family friend, Ronald Rasmussen, an Army veteran who served in the 1970s. Her father-in-law, Lee Owen Kinzer, a U.S. Army veteran having served during World War I, and her husband, Lee Kinzer, a U.S. Navy veteran. Allie Spencer honors her husband, William Spencer, who served in the U.S. Coast Guard from 2006 to 2014 as a boatswain's mate 2nd class, with assignments in Virginia, Hawaii, Alaska, and Oregon. Bobby Bertrand honors her husband, Dane Bertrand, serving in the U.S. Air Force from 2006 to 2012 during Operation Enduring Freedom. Charlotte Moore recognizes her brother, Nathaniel Forsey, a U.S. Marine who served from 2007 to 2020 in Iraq and Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Forsey completed basic and aircrew training before deploying as a CH-53D helicopter crew chief in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. He later served as Naval Air Station Patuxent River as a CH-53E crew chief and quality assurance manager. Forsey was promoted to staff sergeant after his second tour. Dee Dee Blaney remembers her grandfather, Paul Metzger, a World War II U.S. Army veteran who participated in the liberation of a concentration camp. She commends her brother, Ryan Metzger, who served in the 82nd Airborne Division and later led missile defense at Bagram Air Base. Diane Jasperson honors her husband, James Jasperson, a U.S. Navy veteran who served on the USS Nimitz during Operation Desert Storm. Erin Burley honors her husband, Wesley Burley, a U.S. Air Force veteran who served from 2006 to 2012 in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Erin Coons recognizes her great-grandfather, Willard Wid Johnson, a U.S. Army medic during World War I, and her uncle, Jim Payne, a radar man with the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War. Jane Hill honors her husband, Sean Hill, a U.S. Navy veteran, and her father, Khalil Jones, a World War II veteran. Jamie Romero celebrates her son, Taryn Broadhead, who began his service in 2019 as a 13B Cannon crew member, training at Fort Sill before joining the Idaho Army National Guard. In 2020, Taryn was deployed to Washington, D.C. during the George Floyd riots to provide security during a challenging national event. In 2022, he participated in Operation African Lion in Morocco, where he was awarded the Army Achievement Medal for preventing a fire and saving equipment and lives. Taryn returned to Washington, D.C. in 2025 to support security efforts for the presidential inauguration, earning the D.C. Achievement Medal. Today, he serves as Assistant Area Coordinator for the Idaho Honor Guard, ensuring veterans receive the honors they deserve. Jean McDonough honors her grandson, Brody White, AMAW, who has served with the VFA 97 Warhawks since enlisting in 2019. Brody completed 2 deployments aboard the USS Carl Vinson in the U.S. 3rd, 5th, and 7th Fleets, participating in missions across the Middle East and Indo-Pacific, including recent Red Sea operation. Jessica Vineyard honors Nolan, a family member who served in the U.S. Army during Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, as well as serving in Kosovo and South Korea from 2000 to 2009. Juanita Monson recognizes her sons Wendell Chase Monson and Christopher Monson, both veterans of Operation Enduring Freedom, and her brother, William Worthen. Wendell Chase Monson served in the U.S. Navy from 2009 to 2012 as an aviation machinist mate 3rd class at NAS Mayport, working on H-60 helicopters. He deployed to the Horn of Africa and visited several countries performing duties such as hunting pirates and submarines. Christopher Monson served as a corporal in the U.S. Marine Corps from 2008 to 2011 with the 7th Engineer Support Battalion. He deployed to Afghanistan in June 2011, performing route clearance, bridge construction, and engineering support in Helmand Province, where he was injured by an IED. William Worthen was a Command Master Chief who served 28 years in the United States Navy on ships and at duty stations across the U.S. and abroad, retiring in 2022. Carla Bredding honors her father, Roman Ketterling, having served in the U.S. Army from 1957 to 1959, training others to use and shoot their rifles. Kendra Johnson honors her father, Rocky Holmes, a U.S. Army Desert Storm veteran. Michelle Schiffley honors her father, William Bill Knutson, a U.S. Navy veteran who served as a corpsman with the Marines, trained in Bremerton, Washington, and was a medic in Vietnam. Bill received a Purple Heart for injuries sustained in combat and was listed as MIA while recovering in Japan. After his service, he returned home to Montana. Mandy Foster honors her husband, Jeremy Foster, a U.S. Navy aviation ordnance man who served on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and her son, Hagen Foster, currently serving as a hull maintenance technician fireman. Mary Withrow notes her late father-in-law joined the Army Cavalry around 1938 at Jefferson Barracks, St. Louis, Missouri, served in World War II Philippines, retired from the Army Reserve in 1976, and attained the rank of major. Melinda Criddle recognizes her husband, Alan Criddle, a U.S. Navy AMH-3, stationed at NAS Alameda. Nikki Evers honors her father, Nicholas "Nick" Bollinger, a U.S. Navy veteran. After graduating college in 1965, Nick joined the Navy and managed supplies at a shipyard where his team faced dangerous infiltrations. Following his service, he struggled to enter radio media due to public opposition and moved into banking. Nick passed away in 2011. Patty Nelson recognizes her father, John Donahue, who is now 93 and went on an honor flight in November of 2017, and her son, Dylan Nelson, who is now a registered ER nurse in Denver, Colorado. Tammy Brixton celebrates her father, Terry Held, serving in the U.S. Navy. Her brother, Russ Held, served in the U.S. Air Force, and her husband, Ken Brixton, served in the U.S. Navy. Terry Perkins honors her father, Ronald Testa, a U.S. Marine Corps Vietnam War veteran. Tracy Martin recognizes her family member, Byron T. Whitcomb, a private first class in the U.S. Army whose dream was to join the Army Ranger program. Although Byron never had the chance to serve overseas before his life was tragically cut short at Fort Polk, Louisiana, he was dedicated to his military aspirations. To all of our veterans and their families, thank you for your courage, your service, and your sacrifices. Your stories are a vital part of our TFC family, and we honor you today and every day.